The dynamic of being human.
Hello, today we're going to talk about the dynamic of being human. And what do I mean by that? Well, being human, we can have a place that we function, where we have protection, and where we have emotion. And I'll walk that through a little bit more. And so, what does that mean, the dynamic of being human? And how do we walk that through in everyday life? Well, it starts as a child and through a child's perspective. The environment the child's living in, the caregivers that the child's living in, all form the beginnings of the child's perspective on himself or herself. So when something bad is happening at home, and we all know that physical abuse and sexual abuse and emotional abuse are bad, but there are other things that just don't come to mind as being a trauma moment or being bad for a child. And so it could be a birthday party that was all set up and decorations and all the food, and something bad happens and no one shows up, like a snowstorm or something like that. But that child's perspective is formed and it's confusing. You could be in school as a child and they're picking team members to play at gym or recess time, and the child's the last one picked. Now they just experienced shame, embarrassment, not belonging. That forms a child's perspective too. And when it's confusing, the child doesn't understand why that's happening to them. They have no choice, but the mind will create a place to put it because it's not understood. So when something like that bad is happening and it's very confusing for the child, it has to be separated out so that this one has to function in school. And you cannot learn if you're overwhelmed with emotion. So that event, the emotion goes somewhere else. And so we call that function and emotion. And I'll show you these cards. So we have the function card. This is where you're present, you're in the moment, clear and present thoughts. You're open to relationship. And that's the one that stays away or doesn't know the emotion. And that here is where we are right now. As I'm talking to you, this is our prefrontal cortex. That's where the function aspect is. The emotion is when we experience those intolerable emotions. And we found with the survivors we work with that there are typically 3 emotions that are really big, and they can go, many different emotions can fall in with this. And those are shame, lack of attachment pain, and powerlessness. And when that gets separated away from the functioning part, it goes back here. It's our emotional brain. And so we have another aspect of us that keeps these separated, and that's protection. And protection is our midbrain right here. It's our 911 center. That's all of our fight, flight, freeze. And they have 3 more, which is flooding, fawn, and fatigue. Those are all stress responses that keep us separated from the emotion of the emotional aspect of ourselves. And these can go around all day. So I'll give you an example. If I'm driving in a car, let me put that down a little. I'm driving in a car, I'm functioning, and someone cuts me off and almost sideswipe me, I go immediately into powerlessness. And that's intolerable because now I had a chemical change of terror in my body. And what's the typical response sometimes is protection. You go and say, that dummy, he almost cut me off. Anger. That's the stress response. And so now watch what happens. I'm driving, I'm right here, side swipe by the car, emotion comes forward, and anger pushes that away so I don't have to feel all of that terrifying emotion. And every human being does this. You can probably see that in your own life as you walk through this lesson and this module. You'll be able to see where you function, you hit emotion, and you hit protection. It's just how God made us to have defense mechanisms when we aren't able to process what's happening in the moment. And all of this defense mechanism is To keep the heart safe, the heart of the child needs to stay protected when it's confusing or scary or feeling shame.